go, it was simple. When the end's low, switch the tempo. When my friends go, it was simple. When the end's low, switch the tempo.
Welcome back to Close to Broke. My name is Kieran. It's a pleasure to have you folks back. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been a very long time. We're gonna get ourselves a commerce session in. The day is very gloomy today, as you guys can kind of tell. This is not the local weather forecast channel. This is the poker vlog of Close to Broke. We've been on an unbelievable upswing, just a goofy amount of money. I don't know how else to put it besides that. Let's hop into today's session. We're gonna hop into the 5-10 game. Hopefully our name is already on the list. Let's hop in. I'll let you guys know how we do. Super excited to get into the hands. Without further ado, welcome to Commerce Casino and welcome to Close to Broke.
There's just some level of tranquility that comes with being back at home. Man, it's crazy to the point where even the chip runners and the staff that works here at the Commerce are mentioning to me, hey man, where have you been? It's been some time since we've seen you. Well, yeah, it's true. I haven't seen these lovely folks in a while, so it's time to get ourselves strapped up and ready for a fun day here at the Commerce Casino. Anyways, in this very first hand, we're already hopping with a ton of action. This hasn't even been like, I don't know, the end of the first orbit. We find ourselves in an interesting situation. Quickly to note, I'm in for $1,600 to get this going. Playing the 5-10 game. Early position raises to $35. We look down at Ace King offsuit. We've played like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 hands so far, and I've played half of them, so I maybe look a little crazy at this point. I decided to 3-bet from the small blind to 130 bucks. Only our opponent makes a call, and we're going off to a flop that comes Ace-6-Deuce Rainbow. I don't think we could have asked for a more dry and better flop ever, really. Not really scared of my opponent having pocket deuces. Maybe he can have pocket sixes, but for the most part, we're targeting a bunch of middling pairs as well as some weaker aces. So I decided to down bet as a cutshall sizing, the Swiss Army bet of sizings, if that's the proper way to word that. I make it 90 bucks to go. The villain decides to make the call. We're going off to a turn card that comes the 8 of clubs. Again, one less hand that I beat, which is Ace-8, but for the most part, pretty confident in our holding, looking to get max value from Ace-10, Ace-Jack, holdings as such. With the opposition squarely in front of me, all I can think of is putting the blasters on and getting as much money as possible. I make it $375 and he tanks and eventually lays his hand down. No fun there, but at least we were able to bring in a pot in our direction early on in the session. Looks like things are working in our favor. Let's hop to the next hand. Moving right along, the low jack decides to raise to $35. Definitely somebody I'm looking to target to play hands with. Luckily for us, we've got a good hand to look at. We looked on at pocket jacks. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet in position from the hijack next to act to $105. Holds all the way back to the low jack. He makes a call, and we're going off to a flop. Heads up, Queen 9-4 Rainbow. The action squarely onto me. Considering there is a flush draw out there, and we do hold a diamond, I'd like to think that I'm either way in front of my opponent or way behind at this point. If that's the case, we're going to go ahead and try to get my hand to showdown, maneuver it there, so I end up making the check back. The turn card comes a King of Spades, another overcard to our hand, not very great, and unlikely I can go for thin value on any streets. Again, at this point, the only thing on my mind is getting to showdown. We're heading off to a river that comes the 6 of diamonds, completing the front door flush. My opponent, for the 3rd time in this situation, decides to check it over to me. It dawns upon me for like a millisecond that I can try to go for value and target specifically a holding like pocket tens, but in reality, I think that'd be a little too, cutting it close. The last thing I want to do is value on myself against a hand like ace queen or, random hands like that, queen jack. So I end up doing the responsible thing, checking it back. My opponent does not show his hand after I quickly show pocket jacks. We take down another pot, 3-bet pots coming in our way. That's music to my ears. This next hand is a doozy, so let's buckle up. Early position, who's definitely a solid player, but very active and pretty aggressive, decides to open up to 35 bucks. 3 callers when it gets over to me in the small blind. There's 4 different people with $35 out there. And we look down at the ultimate squeeze play from the worst position in poker. We look down at ace queen of diamonds. This is exactly what the doctor ordered. I was thinking about squeezing here earlier in the same exact instance when I had 5 deuce suited, but hearing you guys' in my ear in the comment section about not playing these stupid hands, I decided against it, and in this time I've been rewarded as we look down at the premium. I decided 3-bet here to $180. Gotta really charge these folks here. Even going 200 plus makes more sense, but I end up landing on 180. The initial raiser does something very interesting as he decides to throw in the old 4-ball, $435 in a very snappy fashion after asking me what my stack was looking like. Everyone folds and it gets back onto me, and I made the decision very early on in this hand. I'm going to 3-bet with the intention of 5-bet jamming or calling any jams, so not going to stray away from our plan here. My opponent's been really, really aggressive to this point. And moreover, you know, ace-queen suited, it's a pretty hand. Let's all agree to that. Ace-queen might be the hand that takes you to the parking lot. You know, we've heard that all before, the parking lot hand. But today, it's going to be the hand that gets me to the valet. I end up 5-bet jamming $1,900. And before I can even blink, my opponent decides to throw his hands into the muck. Awesome. Feels great to get nearly $600 pre-flop blind, just free money without going to showdown. Outstanding for us, and hopefully that's just how today's session is going to go. Nothing really out of the ordinary happening to this point until we find ourselves in another interesting situation. The cutoff decides to open at $35, who's been fairly tight pre-flop, and the button decides to make the call. The button is a player we've been trying to get in pots with and, you know, really trying to head after. We find ourselves in the small blind once again with ace-jack offsuit. In this instance, I'd like to 3-bet once again, going to really target this tighter player. It seems like he's shown a propensity to get away from pretty big hands pre-flop or at least post-flop. He's playing far too tight in my opinion. And the gentleman directly to my right, who's the button player, has been super passive and loose, so why not get him to put more money in behind pre-flop? I make it $155 for a 3-bet. Only the button calls, and we're going heads up to a flop that comes 7-7-4 rainbow, with the action squarely onto me. I feel like betting small here seems to be the best idea. I'd like to bet small to keep his range fairly wide. It seems like that's a good idea in my opinion. I'd like to keep king highs and ace highs all in there, so I end up making it $80 to go. He decides to make the call after a brief moment of thinking. We're going off to a turn card that comes a 5 of hearts. This brings a backdoor flush draw, as well as brings in a straight out there. Of course, my opponent can have 8-6 or whatever the straight is, but it's just a little unlikely in my opinion. He's been pretty loose post-flop and pre-flop, but I don't know about that loose. Maybe ace-6 suited makes sense, but definitely not ace-6 off, so only 4 combos of really nutted hands I have to worry about here. And the most of his range, I think, makes up like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, ace-10, ace-9 suited, those kind of holdings, ace, you know, 5, ace-4, ace-3 suited. So with the action squarely onto me, I decide to check it to get my hand to showdown. He decides to bet $90. Again, very weird. We're just clicking buttons at this point. He bets, I don't know, like 10% of the pot or whatever the heck it is. I'm never going to be folding. It just doesn't make sense to me, his betting here. I don't know what he's doing unless he just has quads and it's taking me to value town. I make the call. We're going off to a river that comes at 10 of clubs. Not a great river card as his semi-bluffs get there, I guess. I don't know, like 10-9 or... I really don't know. It's hard to really tell with him. Maybe some random flush draws get there. It would have been better if it was a 10 of hearts in my opinion. Just, again, I feel like the 10's good for his range. I check it over to him, just trying to get the showdown, and he instantly checks it back. We show ace-jack high, feeling pretty confident when he snap checks back, but to our surprise, he shows ace-10 offsuit. So, unlucky for us, we had the right idea. We were doing everything right. We put the money when we were ahead, and didn't lose any more money when we were behind. So, unlucky, I guess. Just, this hand didn't go in our favor, and that's all right. Moving right along, yet again, we're in the hand against our, like I said, he's the antagonist of today's session, one of the main characters of our story plotline. He decides to raise from under the gun to $35. I find myself next to act, or get in an early position with Ace-Deuce suited. I end up 3-betting him to $110. The action gets back to him. He decides to make the call. We're going heads up to a flop that comes Jack 3 deuce with 2 diamonds and a club. He decides to check it over to me, and I pretty quickly throw out a c-bet of $80. Once again, I want to keep his range pretty wide here. After a bit of thinking, he decides to make the fold. And like I said, unfortunate that the last hand we lost, but if we just keep 3-betting him and playing in position, seems like we're going to be able to print money. So let's keep on getting at it.
Alrighty, folks, this session is pretty interesting. The game's okay. There's a couple of really good, you know, players at the like fun spots at the table. But for the most part, nothing really crazy or out of hand has gotten up to this point. As we've had the chance to play a little bit, I've got a little bit of understanding of the table. I think there's some situations that I can take advantage of. So let's hop into this session, and I'll let you guys know how it goes, obviously. Thanks again for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's hop back into the episode.
In this next hand, we look down at Queen-Jack offsuit for middle position. A little loose, but I'm going to go ahead and raise to $35. Unfortunately, the cutoff, the hijack, the small blind, and the big blind all make the frickin' call. We're going 5 ways off to a flop. That's pretty favorable. Jack 8-6 rainbow. Pretty interesting flop as we make top pair with a reasonable kicker. Even better when it checks over to me. I have the opportunity to c-bet once again and continue playing in flow. I make it $65 to go. The action is now onto the hijack, and surprisingly he decides to raise to $165. Folds back over to me and I go into the tank. I'm not really the kind of guy that tanks on flops, but I'm in a really weird situation. My opponent only has about $400 behind. And the problem becomes is, what is a turn card that I love? If he's semi-bluffing with 10-9 and a queen comes, I don't really love my hand, but I'm going to have to go with it. That seems like reverse implied odds at some frequencies. This is a super, super dry board texture. There's no flush draw out there. There are some combinations of straight draws, but for the most part, it just feels like a pretty strong hand. We've had the fold button really installed lately, but I feel like for only $100 more, and considering how much money is in this pot, it would be a little ridiculous to fold. So I end up making the call, not really knowing what I want to see on the turn to improve. And the turn comes a pretty bricky card as it comes to deuce of diamonds. It does introduce a backdoor flush draw though. I check it over to him and he puts it together, compiling some chips that seem like $200 or $300 bet or whatever. I couldn't get my hand out of my hand fast enough, if that makes sense. I ended up folding pretty quickly. He left himself like $150 behind. Look, sure, maybe old Huron just goes with it, but I don't know. I decided to give him credit on this one. I asked him what he had, and he was kind enough to tell me that he had better than what I had. I let him know that I had Queen Jack, and he said that I was beat. So I don't know, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think he had in the comment section below. I'm really eager to see what you guys think. Do you guys think he was bluffing me, or do you think he had a value hand? Hard to tell, but let's take him for his word, I guess. One of the highlights of today's session is going to be one of these hands that we're going over. The second half of this session and this poker vlog is amazing, so stick with me as the hands are just getting more and more exciting. The aggro player that we talked about earlier, again, who's a very solid player, but he is fairly aggressive, decides to open up to $35. The button makes a call. I find myself in the small blind with king, queen of diamonds. If it was offsuit, I would have definitely 3-bet, but in this situation, considering how often I've 3-bet from the small blind today, against these exact players, I don't mind just making the call, keeping the button player in who we've been targeting the whole time. The small blind is where I'm at. The big blind is to my left. Obviously, he makes the call as well. And we're going 4 ways off to a flop that comes queen 9-7 rainbow. Outstanding flop for our hand. Really good flop. I check it over to the initial raiser. He checks it back. The button checks it back. And we're going off to a turn card. 4 ways that comes an ace of diamonds. Outstanding because we pick up a nut flush draw. A little unfortunate because now our top pair has shriveled up to second pair. We check it over to the big blind, who surprisingly takes over the betting lead and decides to bet $65. The action's folded over to the button, who decides to make the call. And with the action squarely onto me, this is what I'll say quickly. If the button did not just call, I would definitely just call myself. But because his money, in my opinion, is just dead, like if I raise, I think he's folding 100% of the time, I think I'm going to go with the more aggressive route. And if I happen to get called by one of these players, if we hit our gin card on the river, we can really blast off. And at least at that point, it's easier to get stacks all in the middle because we've built a pot. After a brief moment, I decide to raise to $265. The big blind decides to make the call, the button folds, and we're going heads up to a river card that comes. If you guys would do me the honor, click the like button in 3 seconds, and you guys will guarantee that this river helps us. 1, 2, 3, click the like button, and the river... Wait, I don't think you clicked the like button. Help us out a little bit. You got it? Thank you very much. And the river comes. The 6 of diamonds. Oh my goodness. Runner. As we all know, is always funner. We have now found ourselves with a really, really interesting decision on the river. There's already a ton of money in the middle. If you guys are adding it up, I can't because I don't have the number right in front of me, but you guys do. This is an interesting situation where there's nearly $800 in the middle, about $750 in that range. I leave myself with a very interesting situation because I believe, from what I can see, my opponent has somewhere in the realm of $900 to $1,000. This sets up a pretty interesting river spot where I can go for a 1.25x into 1. So I think there's nothing else to do here besides jam and really put my opponent in a tough spot. People are really not likely to put you on backdoor flushes, so I end up jamming. I put out a bet of $1,200, which has my opponent covered, and he goes deep into the tank, looks me through his Ray-Ban aviator glasses into my soul, and eventually decides, on making the fold. Unlucky for us that we are not able to make any more money there. Good fold onto him. He would later tell me that he folded 2 pair. Great fold by him. Can't even pretend like it was yeah, it was a great fold by him. Unlucky for us, we couldn't get any more money there, but as it goes, we're going to go ahead and continue on in our session. Hopefully we can go up from here. Things are progressively getting better by this point. I'm getting a better understanding for the table. We're already a couple hours into the session, and things have gone, you know, swimmingly, I guess, okay. No massive pots, no really small pots that have gone out of our favor. Seems like things are going okay. In this next spot, early position aggressive player makes it 35. The hijack makes a call. I'm on the button with 3 deuce suited. I'm going to go and make the call here a little loose, but in position. I mean, it can't be that bad. We're going 3 ways off to a flop that comes 6-5 deuce with 2 hearts and a spade. It checks over to me, and I decide to throw out a bet of $50 for value, looking to target flush draws as well as some random overcards. The initial raiser decides to make the call, and we're going to heads up to a turn card that comes at 6 of clubs. With the action onto me after checking to me, this is the only reason I even brought this hand up in the first place. I think this is a spot where a lot of players get into the idea of just going into check back mode, but I think there's a ton of combinations and holdings that we can get value from. Sure, we're going to get value on sometimes if our opponent has like 8s or 9s here. You know, even aces and kings should be checking this flop at some frequency, but to be totally honest, in my strategy and style of play, I feel like betting small here on the turn is a good idea. The reason being is we're targeting ace highs that just are getting really sticky, and moreover, we're denying equity against those holdings. Flush draws are going to be calling as well. So after a moment of thinking, I make it about 1/3 the size of the pot for $80. My opponent thinks about it for a brief moment actually, before eventually deciding on a fold. So not great for us, we can get any more value, but the really good thing is that our little measly pair of deuces there ends up getting some good value, and we did the right thing by equity denying. Pretty nice hand there. Some time has passed by to this point when we look down at pocket 6s under the gun. I've only got a couple more orbits left. I mean, it's late in the night, so let's have some fun here. Let's build a pot. I make it $35 to go. Next tag makes a call. Both blinds make the call. We're going 4 ways off to a flop that comes ace, jack, 9 with 2 hearts and a club. Not great. Very much not great. But this is not a bad board for my, range. I'm under the gun. I'm supposed to have all this, right? I definitely have the nut advantage. With the action checked over to me, I decided to c-bet for $50, and unfortunately, it's a range advantage board, but that doesn't mean much when frickin' everyone decides to make the call. We're going 4 ways to a turn card that comes with 6 of spades. I don't even notice it at first, and then instantly it hits me. My heart drops. I realize I just turned a set in the most disgustingly disguised way possible. And this is interesting. This is really interesting. There's a flush draw out there. This is like super wet board texture, and we have a massive holding. These guys have to have a flush draw or a 2-pair combination, something solid, right? The action checked over to me. I decide once again to bet for value. I make it $375. Everyone folds. What the freak? What did they all call with on the flop? Did they just all snap folded on the turn? Unfortunate, but either way, we're going to take the free money down. Outstanding turn card for us, to say the least. Looking to wrap things up, we're in the final hand of today's session. Now, I'll be honest with you, we saved the best for last. There are 2 limps to me, one of them being that gentleman we've been definitely isolating pretty much the entire session, looking to get a big one against him. We look down at 8-7 of diamonds, beautiful suited connectors. Don't we love playing these in position? I decide to isolate the player to $55 for middle position. The low jack, the cutoff, and the second limper make the call. And we're going 4 ways off to the flop, unfortunately out of position to a lot of these people. That comes 6-4-3 with 2 diamonds and a club. Wow. We flop ourselves a massive, massive draw, flopping ourselves a gut shot straight flush draw, a flush draw, a straight draw, and 2 overs here. This is the best freaking possible flop that we could have ever hoped for. And better yet, the limper decides to donk lead into us for $55. With the action onto me, raising might be a bit of an overplay here. I can get my opponents to fold, some marginal holdings that we have a ton of equity against. So, let's not do this at this point. Let's try to build up a pot. Let's allow some people behind me to make some errors. So I end up making the flat call. The cutoff folds, but the person to my direct left makes a call. We're going 3 ways off to a turn card that comes with 4 of hearts. Not my favorite card as it pairs the board, but I don't know if I can fold just yet. The player to my direct right decides to lead out once again for $150. The action's now on to me, and I do have to consider about raising here sometimes, but let's just see if we can realize our equity. I make the call. The person to my direct left decides to make the fold, and we're going heads up to a river, hoping to see a good card, and that it comes. A beautiful ace of diamonds. So we brick out our straight flush draw, unfortunately, but I guess we'll make do with the flush. My opponent checks it over to me, and I think there's some really fun table talking.
You have like a pocket sevens, pocket eights, pocket nines. I know now. I have to bet then.
Definitely a really tough situation for my opponent if he has what I expect him to have, which is some form of middling pair. We do block 7s and 8s, but that doesn't discount ever having those combinations, and he could definitely have 9s and 10s here sometimes. Either way, I decide to bet a massive $475. I've been betting him in these spots all day, and he's found the fold. I think he's finally had enough of making big folds for the day. He ends up throwing in the call. We show our hand, and it is in fact good. What a way to wrap up today's session, winning a massive pot there, flopping a big draw, and luckily getting there. That is good old-fashioned California poker. That's going to wrap up today's session. I really hope you guys enjoyed the episode. This was a ton of fun to put together. Let's throw it over to me live and see how we feel shortly after this session had concluded.
When my friends go, it was simple. When the ends low, switch the tempo. I got right, I got heart, I won't die, I'ma fight. I go down, bet I strike, I go hard day.
Alrighty, folks, here with a vlog watcher, Jesse. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, this is the second time we've been at the Commerce and we've said hello to a vlog watcher when they won the jackpot. So, happened once again today. Jesse was once again involved in the table share. Looks like it was Ace King versus Queens. He's getting paid out right now. Look at that. Yes, sir. 800 bucks. Congratulations. What was it? 20K?
Yeah, it was 20K.
20K table share? Okay, so he won the table share. So, you know, nice for him. Huge shout out to Jesse and congrats to him. Congratulations, brother.
My wife also won too.
Oh, you guys are at the same table?
Yeah, same table.
Oh, shit. Nice job. Well, congratulations, you know. Thank you to them for being so nice. And just like that, we are out of today's session. Man, kind of a boring one for the most part, besides the 5-bet with Ace Queen, and then at the end of it, finding a way to get max value with that little squeeze play pre-flop that ended up turning into a beautiful straight flush draw that ended up with a regular old flush. Today's session was a lot of fun. The reason is, I think we can officially say we are on a heater. This is unbelievable. Being on a massive upswing going into this year's World Series of Poker does one big thing for me, and that is provide some level of reassurance that we're playing some pretty good poker right now. And as you guys saw today, adding that fold button has really changed my game quite a bit. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty solid. Definitely made some mistakes. And today, I think that I could have gotten away with a pretty exploitative fold with Queen Jack on that Jack, whatever. It was like a Jack high board with a bunch of bricks. I think exploitatively, I could fold that. And the reason I say that is because with the opponent's stack size and a couple of other, reasons, I just felt like he was strong. It's such a dry board texture. It's hard for him to have a lot of bluffs. But either way, I kept him honest by making the call. As you guys saw, we ended up making a fold. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the fold button that was newly added. I hope you guys still love the fact that I'm playing super aggressive. Like I said, if you guys haven't already, make sure to check the link at the top description if you guys ever want to play poker with me. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Massive shout out to all the vlog watchers we met today. I'm going to forget everybody's names, but Jesse, Tom, and obviously Jesse's wife, and anyone else that I met today. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for saying hello. If you guys ever see me outside, especially during the World Series of Poker, don't ever feel ashamed or worried. It is an honor and a pleasure to meet all of you guys. Anyways, let's get to the numbers. We were into today's game for 1,600 and out for 3,420. So a profit of $1,820, I think. So we're gonna take that. That is a great, nice booking of a win. The vehicle is here, and it's time to get the hell out of here and get home. It's a little too late for me. It's time to go see the missus. I appreciate you guys always. Stay happy, stay healthy. More importantly, one good at the tables, y'all. Deuces.
What if you started again? This is real life, not a game. I find my battles to win, but some people go to war for none.